Hello YouTube, and thank you for watching. This is the CS International Pack and Ship Show. Now we have the items on the top of the packing table. Is 33061 and 33086, and the two of them combinations. And item is for the Trigger Magnum, and this is for the TJ Omega. Thank you very much, TJ Omega. Your items just packed, and 33061, 33086. It will be shipped out this evening. And thank you very much, TJ Omega. Hope you get these items very soon.
Welcome to part 2 of my look at Kamen Rider Double's roleplay toys. Now, we just finished with the belt review, so let's move on to the next logical step, and we'll talk weapons this time. And while I did kind of tease at the start of this video, we're actually going to start with this thing. This is the metal shaft. Yes, make all the jokes you want now. Just get them out of the way. Now, as a staff weapon, this thing is, well, fairly big for a toy. My big problem with Kamen Rider roleplay weapons is when they're melee weapons, they're always so short and stubby. Well, in this mode, this looks fine. I mean, this looks like what he has strapped to his back during the show before he draws it. For now, let's focus a little bit on the detail of this thing. You see, the red metallic paint returns along with a lot of silver going all the way down this toy. It is still the same beautiful Bandai silver, and it is done very well here all the way around. They really did not miss anything on this toy. No skipping on the paint job. I really like that. Detail-wise, same thing with the double driver. You can see molded in are these little like air tanks, which I guess is what ejects the main shaft. And you've got little air intakes as well. It kind of follows the exact same themes. Like, you do kind of feel like Philip and Shotaro kind of built these in their basement, and I love that design aesthetic. It's very different, and it suits the show very well. And in the toy form, it's represented quite well. Now, this thing does have an action feature, as most Rider roleplay weapons do. A little underwhelming, I must admit. Two little buttons. Extends the shaft on each side about 2.5 inches. It does make it quite a large weapon for a Kamen Rider toy, but for the most part, it is rather underwhelming. I mean, it looks like it should be able to go a lot larger than that. I mean, I'm used to like Star Wars lightsabers that are full length. It's actually that soft kind of plastic, and it seems to be on some kind of spring, no less, so you're not going to really hurt a brother or younger sister cruelly bludgeoning them with your toys. Now, as far as the toy itself goes, that's pretty much it. Now, the majority, well, I lie, all of the sound effects all come from the Gaia memory, which is unique for this particular toy, and it's actually a lot more versatile than I expected, and almost a little bit more fun than the weapon itself. You see, Trigger's clear plastic, so you get to see the sounds as they light up the memory. Well, if you want to hear that again, I'm going to have to eject the memory, lock it back in, and we'll go. I have to do that because if I hit the trigger again, what normally memories would repeat their maximum drive sound effects, the metal memory, that was a whooshing noise. That was a hitting noise. That was a, I just bashed a wizard noise, I don't know. It actually turns into a more normal sounding sound box. I mean, you hold the staff like this, with the memory sticking up that way. So your finger's always on the trigger. So swinging it around, it actually turns into some pretty interesting sound effects. Now, while it is strange that the maximum drive attack comes before all the other normal ones, kind of awkward that you have to remove the memory, then load it back in to actually fight in order, you know. So that's a little strange, but it does add a little bit more of an effect to this memory and to the toy itself. Now I will admit, on its own, this toy's a little underwhelming, but I actually like it better than I thought I was going to, and that may have to do with the metal memory itself, especially because of how cool the henshin noise is. Now on to the next one, the Trigger Magnum. This one is the one I was really anticipating, looking forward to. And you know what? In some ways it does not let down. In some ways it kind of does. The toy itself, again, beautifully crafted. Now, this is the opposite side of the toy, so you cannot see the double. That is show accurate, by the way, I checked. That looks a little bit more normal. Now we have gone completely different in the color scheme. We've traded up silver for a very nice metallic blue. It is a very nice little change, goes well with the toy itself. A lot of this trigger blue, I guess we're going to call it, and a gold W instead of the red that we've been seeing on everything else. In a weird way, the metal shaft actually matches the belt better than the gun, which seems to be the more popular weapon. That's the weird thing here. But in and of itself, it's actually a pretty good design. I quite like it. Again, there's lots of little panels on here, and what's really noticeable on this one, though I doubt the camera's going to pick it up, there's a lot of little spots on here where the texture's really rough. So aside from all the usuals, the exposed wires and such, it also kind of looks like they just used whatever was lying around in order to build the shell of the gun. Really like little touches like that. Toy itself kind of models itself as some kind of submachine gun, so you can lay down some heavy fire with this one. Oh, speaking of which, this actually has its own batteries, its own sound effects, without having to put a Gaia memory in there. Now, while it's a nice rapid-fire sound effect, no lights, which most Rider guns end up having, so that's kind of disappointing, but no surprise. One thing that does kind of bug me is the rapid fire is not very smart. And what I mean by that is other Rider guns, like the Excalibur I reviewed, if you hold down the trigger, it'll fire indefinitely until you let go. It actually knows how long you're holding the trigger. You know, it fires one shot, fires 100. Depends on how long you hold it. This, it's always 8 shots. The toy also has a transformation element to it. While that comes into effect for maximum drive, it's cool just to do on its own, because you go from submachine gun to the RoboCop Enforcer gun. Gives the gun a very different profile. Instead of firing off a ton of little shots, laying down fire, you are just blowing something away on this one. This is a very cool design. And aesthetically, might be my favorite Rider gun so far. Aesthetically. Now let's move on to the thing you really want to see. The trigger memory. Of course, meant exclusively for this toy. Now, I'll load this in, and you'll note it's not the normal drop-in. You'll actually notice it's a little spring-loaded. You actually have to give it some force in order to get it in there, whereas all the others, you just kind of drop it in and it goes. So this takes a little bit more. Shrill, isn't it? Let's try this out. You can hear the sound effect is a little bit louder now. And we pull the trigger. Now it's going to keep making that noise anytime I pull it. It's quite the cool sound effect. But did you notice? No light. You know, most of these maximum drives, the light goes nuts during that. So let me show you what's really going on here. I'll turn off the gun and we'll hear this. Hear that? Instead of a maximum drive noise coming out of the memory, it's coming out of the gun. So the memory in itself is actually just making the locking sound effect that the gun makes in the show. While that creates a double layered sound effect like I mentioned in the belt review, it also kind of takes away from the memory itself. Because whereas others, I can kind of swap it around between other toys and such, I can't do that with a trigger memory because it doesn't have its own maximum drive effect, which is a bit of a letdown. All in all, the Trigger Magnum was clearly meant to be kind of its own toy, and interaction with the others is kind of a secondary gimmick, because pretty much everything revolves around the memory and the gun working together. Though you do have one little trick that I like. Hit this button to eject the memory. It kind of unloads like a spent shotgun shell, which is another neat little touch, and it's why this thing was spring-loaded in the first place. In and of itself, it's fine, but when you start playing around with other memories, it gets a little tricky. Though, again, nice henshin noise. Now the final verdict. Are they worth the money? The metal shaft, I'm going to warn you right now, because of the size of the box this thing comes in, and it's huge, you're not going to be able to ship it any cheap way, which means the price on this thing is always going to be higher than it really should be. That being said, I would really only recommend it if you get all of the other double toys. If you get the belt and the Magnum, then you're going to want to complete the set. And since you're going to have so many memories at that point to swap around, it's probably going to be worth the price. Now, it's a little bit more fun, but it's a really expensive stick. The Trigger Magnum, on the other hand, this one is a little bit more worth the price. Like I said, it's really kind of compact. You know, all of the little tricks it does exclusively for itself. Now, as a self-contained toy, it's perfectly fine. If you're only interested in buying one roleplay toy for Double, this would be it. Even the belt, I admit, doesn't quite do as much for the cost as this thing does for its cost. So this is going to be your best option, and yeah, it can be shipped cheaper. That does it. I mean, that's all three the major roleplay toys for Kamen Rider Double. I mean, I really don't have anything left. Hang on 1 second. God, what now? Hello? What? No, I'm done. I just finished. Fine. I've got one more video to make.